To begin our story, we must step back from the sprawling fields of Hyrule and the story of our young hero, Link. Zelda no Densetsu, or The Legend of Zelda, may have never come to pass in its current incarnation had it not been for a law set in motion by copyright violation. So let's take a look at what Nintendo was up to before the prolific game was released. By now, Nintendo's home console had been out for a time. Due to the ban of game rentals in Japan in 1984, software developers were clamoring to reduce costs and competitively market to consumers in new ways. Nintendo was working on a new peripheral for their family computer, or the Famicom. The peripheral was an add-on to the Famicom that functioned with magnetic discs, similar to floppy disks. Enter the FDS, or Famicom Disk System. This new system would allow players to create and save, a feature that the Famicom up to that point lacked. This was the format and ecosystem where The Legend of Zelda was to be born. Nintendo was working on a launch title that could take advantage of these new features and sell this expensive new addition to the Famicom. This game project was spearheaded by legendary Super Mario Bros. Creator Shigeru Miyamoto. Enter the Hyrule Fantasy. Originally intended to be a dungeon crawler where gamers could create their own dungeons and trade with their friends, Mr. Miyamoto found the game was lacking a particular dimension. He wanted the players to be able to not only explore dungeons, but forests and fields. So new tiles were added, such as trees, to the build set, as well as brighter colors to create the outside world. Thus, Hyrule Field was born. Zelda, the Hyrule Fantasy, was a fantasy exploration game that broke from linear gameplay and forced players to solve puzzles across the kingdom and dungeons of Hyrule. A young adolescent dumped into this great open world called to a person's innate yearning for exploration. Its many hidden dungeons and treasures scattered across the land forced us to think and challenge us to decide what to do next. Exploring this new world and choosing our own path made it our own adventure.
Finally, yeah!
When it released in 1986 in Japan, The Legend of Zelda was an instant success and a cultural phenomenon. Despite the success of the game in Japan, executives at Nintendo did not think US gamers would have the patience for the game's more dynamic playstyle. However, the decision was made to port the game to the US utilizing a newly developed cartridge sporting a new chip and battery-powered RAM, which allowed players to save progress. On August 22, 1987, Legend of Zelda hit the shelves in North America in all its gleaming gold cartridge glory.
Whoa, nice graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
Kids were clamoring to get their hands on the new game that was so epic that it came with a giant printed map. Kids would sneak their custom marked up maps into the classroom to share and compare the location of secrets and the best ways to beat different bosses.
There's secret holes that you go into. When you get to those things that go up and down, you just jump on them. I bet I'm much better than him at Zelda.
Its commercial success put it at the top of America's radar, which helped it to become the first NES title to sell over 1 million copies. Its popularity continually scored it a spot in Nintendo Power's top 30 games list well into the 90s. The Legend of Zelda started not only a franchise that spans over 30 years, it inspired a generation of gamers and future game developers. The landscape of gaming would never be the same thanks to the Hyrule Fantasy. The fantasy and exploration elements of the game sparked the growth of RPGs and started a trend of deep storytelling in gaming. Throughout this series of videos, we will be detailing the legacy of Zelda, and we will examine its rich history and impact on gaming culture throughout the last 30 years. So tell us, because we want to know, what is your earliest memory with the franchise and how did it shape you as a gamer? Sound off in the comments below, and as always, press like and subscribe so you can keep up with the next few videos we do in this retrospective. Thanks, guys.